3 years ago, on a storm-ravaged night, he had ruthlessly thrown his 6-month pregnant wife out onto the street to welcome his mistress, ignoring her pleas as she knelt until her knees bled. But the laws of karma spare no one. The day he stood beaming, his arm wrapped around his lover's waist at the airport, awaiting a multi-million-dollar partner. He froze, collapsing to the floor when he realized the queen stepping out of the Maybach was the same small-town wife he once cursed and left for dead. From the abyss of grief after losing her child, Mia was reborn. She returned as a powerful CEO, armed with a $70 million verdict to send her ex-husband's entire family to the dark prison of ruin. The sharp click of stiletto heels on the cold marble floor of the VIP lounge at Miami International Airport echoed like a hammer against a drum. Mia lowered her oversized sunglasses, revealing piercing almond-shaped eyes, expertly lined and shadowed, holding no trace of the sorrow from 3 years prior. Less than 15 feet away, a man in a white suit had his arm around a young woman in a vibrant red dress. Laughing boisterously, he leaned in and pressed his lips to the girl's cheek, a cheap fawning kiss that Mia had once considered a priceless treasure. Mia didn't flinch. She walked straight towards them, the rich, complex fragrance of Labo Santal, 33, radiating from her, easily overpowering the cloyingly sweet perfume of the other woman. As her shadow passed over them, the man instinctively looked up. The moment their eyes met, the smile on his lips froze, twisting into a grotesque grimace. He snatched his hand from his mistress's waist and stumbled back 2 steps, tripping over an expensive Louis Vuitton suitcase and nearly falling backward. "Mia," he stammered, his face drained of all color, as if he'd just seen a ghost rise from the depths of the sea. Mia paused for only a second. She tilted her head, the corner of her mouth lifting in a pitying half-smile. Then she continued walking, leaving behind a wake of panicked whispers and the shattering of a dead past. The golden December sun of Miami poured down on the lush green palm trees. But it wasn't enough to warm the chill in Mia's heart as she set foot in this city for the first time in 3 years. Her first-class flight from New York had landed on time. Mia adjusted the lapel of her cream-colored blazer, a bespoke piece tailored to perfection, accentuating her slender waist and the powerful aura of a successful businesswoman. She wasn't here for a vacation or to relive memories. She was here to collect on debts of blood and tears. Behind her, her assistant Kevin swiftly pulled a silver Rimowa suitcase, reporting in a low voice, "Ma'am, the car from Apex Global is waiting at the VIP exit. Mr. Harrison insisted on taking you to the Serenity Grand Resort to rest before the shareholder meeting tomorrow." Mia nodded slightly, tucking a loose chestnut brown curl behind her ear. "All right, Kevin, stick to the schedule, and please double-check the guest list for tonight's gala at Sunset Point." "Yes, ma'am." The automatic doors of the VIP lounge slid open and a rush of cool air and conditioned air mixed with the faint salty scent of the ocean breeze washed over her. Mia took a deep breath. 3 years ago the smell of this ocean was the scent of despair and death. Now it was the scent of rebirth. It was then that the revolting scene caught her eye. Ethan Hayes, her worthless ex-husband, was standing there. He was a little heavier than she remembered. A slight beer belly straining against his suit. His skin weathered from the sun on construction sites, but the white suit was a desperate attempt to look polished and suave. Beside him was Tiffany Monroe, the mistress who had destroyed her marriage, now draped in flashy designer brands, playing the part of a pampered wife. "Hurry up, honey. The sun is killing me." "I don't want to ruin my skin," Tiffany wed, her voice so saccharine, it made one's skin crawl. "Just a second, babe. I'm looking for the car. Where the hell is that driver today?" Ethan grumbled, wiping sweat from his forehead, his arm never leaving Tiffany's waist. They were blocking the VIP exit, their luggage scattered carelessly. Mia strode forward, her presence as imperious as a queen's. She had no intention of causing a scene. Her time was money, not to be wasted on the unworthy. But fate, or rather a cruel sense of irony, had forced them to meet at this very moment. When Ethan saw her and nearly fell, Tiffany quickly steadied him, frowning. "What's wrong with you? Watch where you're going." But Ethan didn't answer. His eyes were wide, glued to the woman before him. It can't be. It can't be Mia. In his memory, Mia was the daughter of a poor fishing family from the Keys. She was dark-skinned, perpetually smelling of salt and shrimp, her hands rough from mending nets. She always wore cheap clothes from the night market, flip-flops on her feet, her hair hastily tied in a bun. That provincial woman had once knelt at his feet, begging him not to abandon her and their child on a stormy night. But this woman, her skin was as smooth and white as pearl, her eyes deep and captivating, her lips a seductive, luscious red. The outfit she wore, from the blazer to the shoes to the handbag, he might not know every brand, but he knew its value was more than his entire annual salary. And most importantly, it was her aura, that cool, overwhelming presence that made people afraid to look her in the eye. How could this be the Cinderella from the fishing village? You are, Ethan stammered, his voice cracking. Tiffany now looked up, following his gaze. She froze. As a woman, she was more sensitive than anyone to beauty and threat. The woman before them was beautiful, dangerously, and elegantly so. But why did her face seem so familiar? Mia paused, lowering her sunglasses to the bridge of her nose, revealing her sharp, piercing eyes. Move, she said, her voice soft, but as cold as ice. 3 words. Just 3 words, but they sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. The voice was more refined, more commanding, but the tone was one he could never forget. Mia, you're alive? He blurted out. The stupidest question in the world. Mia's lips twisted into a scornful sneer. Were you hoping I was dead, Ethan? The indirect confirmation struck Ethan like a lightning bolt. He stumbled back, his legs tangled. Tiffany, beside him, turned pale. You're his ex-wife. Mia didn't even spare Tiffany a glance. To her, a woman who stole another's husband and reveled in her pain wasn't even worth a look. Kevin, clear the way, she commanded curtly. The handsome assistant immediately stepped forward, politely but firmly pushing Ethan and Tiffany's luggage aside. Excuse me, you're blocking the VIP exit. Please make way for our director. At the same time, 2 airport security guards and a senior manager in a sharp uniform hurried over. The manager bowed deeply to Mia. Miss Sterling, my sincerest apologies for this inconvenience. The Maybach is waiting at gate 1. Please, this way. Mia gave a slight nod and walked on, her grace and composure unshaken, the sound of her heels clicking rhythmically again. She left behind the couple, who stood frozen in the middle of the bustling airport terminal. Ethan watched his ex-wife's retreating back, then looked at the gleaming black Maybach waiting outside the glass doors. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. Director of what? And a Maybach, he muttered, his mind reeling. Tiffany gripped Ethan's arm, her sharp nails digging into his flesh. What are you looking at? Lost your soul? She probably just latched onto some rich old geyser to get a new life. What could a backwater hick like her ever accomplish? Though she spoke to reassure herself and belittle her rival, a formless anxiety was rising within her. The look in Mia's eyes just now, it held the promise of annihilation. Inside the luxurious car, gliding smoothly through the streets of Miami Beach, Mia leaned her head against the window, watching the familiar rows of palm trees recede. Memories played back in her mind like a slow, cruel film. 3 years ago in this same city, but in a squalid, damp apartment complex near the marina. Just sign it. Stop making my son's life miserable, Sharon. Ethan's mother had said, throwing the divorce papers in front of Mia. At the time, she was 6 months pregnant, her belly swollen, her feet and hands puffy from standing all day cleaning fish to support her lazy in-laws. Ethan sat on the sofa smoking a cigarette, his gaze averted. He didn't dare look at her. Mom, I'm carrying your grandchild. Mia had sobbed, her hands protectively clutching her stomach. Ethan, say something. We promised we'd get through this together. Get through what? How much longer? Ethan had snapped, his voice filled with frustration. Look at you. You always smell like fish. You come home and all you do is complain about money. I'm sick of it. Tiffany is different. She can help my career. Her father is a major construction contractor. You're just a burden. His every word was a knife twisting in her heart. So 4 years of marriage, all her sacrifices were worth less than a nod from a contractor's daughter. But our child, get rid of it, Sharon had said coldly. We can't afford to raise it. sign the papers and get out. Tiffany is moving in soon. I don't want her to see your miserable face. That night, the sky opened up. A sudden tropical storm lashing the city. Mia was thrown out of the house by her husband and mother-in-law with nothing but a single bag of old clothes. She wandered aimlessly, the rain mixing with her salty tears. On a dark, winding coastal road, a truck lost control and came hurtling towards her, the blinding headlights, the screech of tires, and then a horrific impact. Mia was thrown to the side of the road, blood pooling in the rainwater at her feet. She writhed in agony, her hands still trying to shield her belly, her lips whispering, "My baby, save my baby." In her delirium, she saw Ethan's car pass by. He stopped, rolling down the window. She tried to lift a bloody hand to beg for help. He saw her. A flicker of fear crossed his eyes, but then Tiffany, beside him, pulled his arm and said something. Ethan rolled the window up and sped away. He left her and their unborn child to die in the cold rain. Mia's world shattered in that moment. If it weren't for Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, a wealthy New York couple on vacation who happened to be passing by and rushed her to the hospital, she would have truly died. Her baby, her little angel, did not survive. The doctors said the impact was too severe, compounded by her long-term physical exhaustion. Mia woke up from a 3-day coma. When she learned she had lost her child, she tried to jump from the hospital roof, but Mr. Sterling stopped her. "Dying is easy, my child," he had said. "But the ones who hurt you are still out there living and laughing. Can you accept that? If you die, your child will be a lost soul, and you will just be another forgotten grave. Live. Live to stand above them all." Those words resurrected Mia's dead soul. The Sterlings adopted her, taking her to New York for treatment and education. She changed her name, her appearance. She learned business. She learned about pearls, the Sterling family's legacy. She threw herself into work. 18 hours a day, swallowing her tears, turning her pain into ambition. From an uneducated girl from a fishing village, she became Chloe Sterling, the rising pearl queen in the jewelry world and the holder of a 30% stake in the new Serenity Grand Resort, soon to be opened in Miami. "Ma'am, we've arrived." Kevin's voice pulled Mia back to the present. She opened her eyes, their gaze now calm and still as a deep lake. The car had stopped before the main entrance of the most magnificent 6-star resort on South Beach. The manager and his staff were lined up to welcome her. Mia stepped out of the car, a perfect professional smile on her face. "Welcome home, Miss Sterling." She shook the manager's hand, her eyes scanning the grand architecture. Tomorrow at the grand opening gala, she knew that Monroe Construction, Tiffany's father's company where Ethan worked, would be present as a subcontractor. "Kevin, send a VIP invitation to Mr. and Mrs. Monroe of Monroe Construction. Make sure to specify that their daughter and son-in-law are also invited," Mia instructed, her voice laced with a dangerous edge. "You're planning," Kevin hesitated. "I want them in the front row. I want them to see clearly where the person they once trampled upon is standing now." Meanwhile, in a modest 3-star hotel not far away, Ethan collapsed onto the bed the moment he entered the room, sweating profusely. The image of Mia at the airport haunted him. "It can't be. That girl is dead." "Maybe it's a twin sister," he muttered, his hand trembling as he lit a cigarette. He remembered the accident 3 years ago. He knew he had abandoned her. Afterward, he'd heard rumors about a pregnant woman who died in a hit and run on the coastal road, her body unclaimed. He was certain it was Mia. Cowardice had stopped him from confirming it, from even setting up a memorial. He had only secretly lit a few sticks of incense at a crossroads and tried to forget. Tiffany emerged from the bathroom, a towel wrapped loosely around her. Seeing her husband's dazed state, she kicked his leg in annoyance. "Are you still thinking about that ghost? I told you it was probably just someone who looks like her. There are billions of people in the world. It's normal for people to look alike. But the voice, the eyes, and that little scar at the end of her left eyebrow, it's exactly the same," Ethan said, trembling. "Stop it. Don't try to scare me." Tiffany snapped, sitting at the vanity to apply a face mask. "And who cares who she is? What's important is that at the Apex Gala tomorrow, my dad has arranged for you to meet the top executives. I hear the new investor from New York is a big spender. You'd better be on your best behavior. If you can land the furnishing contract for Phase 2, the vice president position is yours. The mention of his career brought a spark to Ethan's eyes, temporarily pushing his fear aside. That's right. He was now the son-in-law of a major construction company's director. His future was bright. An old provincial ex-wife, whether she was alive or had struck it rich, was still just a woman. He was a man with a solid backing. What was there to be afraid of? I know. I'll wear the new blue suit you bought me tomorrow. I'll definitely make it worth your while, Ethan said, getting up to embrace his wife, trying to curry favor. That's more like it, Tiffany said with a smug smile. But it's strange. I heard the airport staff call her Miss Sterling, but they also called her Mia. Could it be the same name? They looked at each other, and a brief silence filled the room. The next morning, the grand opening gala for the Serenity Grand was held outdoors on the windswept shores of South Beach. The space was decorated with thousands of imported white roses and orchids combined with the sparkle of crystal chandeliers, creating a fairy tale-like scene. The guests were all major figures in real estate, finance, and local politics. A line of supercars filled the parking lot. Ethan's family arrived in his father-in-law's Mercedes C300. His mother, Sharon, was also with them, dressed in a gaudy red velvet dress adorned with so much gold on her neck and wrists, she looked like a walking jewelry store. My goodness, this resort is huge, Frank, Sharon marveled, her eyes wide with awe. If our Ethan becomes an executive here, I'll be so proud. Keep your voice down, Mom. People will laugh, Ethan whispered, adjusting his tie. He felt a little intimidated by the sheer luxury of the place. Tiffany, however, was more confident. She linked her arm with Ethan's, puffing out her chest as she walked the red carpet. Just be confident, Dad said. A representative from the parent corporation in New York is here today. They say she's a young, brilliant businesswoman. Her English name is Chloe or something. Chloe Sterling, Frank Monroe, her father, interjected. This woman is no simple matter. She's only 28, but she's already taken over one of the biggest pearl conglomerates in the country. Your goal today, son, is to get close to her, offer her a drink, give her your business card. Yes, sir. I understand. The family was escorted by a hostess to a VIP table near the stage. This surprised and delighted Frank. They must really respect the reputation of Monroe Construction to seat us so close to the front. Ethan felt a surge of excitement, looking around for his opportunity. At exactly 6 p.m., the soft music faded and the stage lights blazed to life. The MC stepped out and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, and now it is my great honor to introduce the Vice Chairwoman of Apex Global, the founder of the Sterling Pearls jewelry brand, the woman known as the Pearl Queen, Miss Chloe Sterling, who will deliver the opening remarks." A thunderous applause erupted. From the side of the stage, a woman emerged. She was wearing a black evening gown studded with thousands of Swarovski crystals, a high slit, revealing a long, slender leg. Around her neck was a string of priceless black Tahitian pearls, each one large, round, and glossy, reflecting the stage lights with a hypnotic allure. Her hair was swept up in an elegant updo, her makeup subtle yet powerful. The entire hall held its breath at the sight of such stunning beauty. But at table number 1, 4 people were frozen as if turned to stone. The wine glass in Ethan's hand slipped and shattered on the floor. Red wine splattered onto Tiffany's white dress, but she didn't seem to care. Her jaw was slack, her eyes wide as she stared at the stage. Sharon was speechless, clutching her chest, her face ashen. That ghost. Mia on stage under the brilliant spotlight. Mia stood before the microphone. She didn't speak immediately. Instead, she let her gaze sweep across the room, finally settling long and deep on table number 1. Her eyes met Ethan's panicked stare piercing through to his dark soul. She smiled, a beautiful smile like a rose with poisonous thorns. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Chloe Sterling, but some of you may know me by my old name, Mia. Her voice, amplified by the powerful sound system, was clear and articulate, each word a death sentence for those below. Ethan felt the world spin. He gripped the edge of the table to keep from collapsing. The poor ragged wife he had discarded like an expired product was now standing on the pinnacle of success, looking down on him as if he were an ant. The moment Mia finished speaking, it felt as if all the air had been sucked out of the grand ballroom. A heavy silence fell upon the hundreds of guests, so profound that the sound of the waves crashing on the shore outside became sharp and distinct. On stage, Mia remained proud and regal like a goddess of vengeance. The spotlight illuminated her, accentuating the cold luster of the black Tahitian pearls. She didn't rush to descend, letting the silence torture the souls at table number 1. Below, Sharon trembled, her teeth chattering. She clutched the arm of her son-in-law's father, Frank Monroe, her red-painted nails digging into the expensive fabric of his suit. "Frank, is that really Mia, or is it a ghost? I heard she drowned in the river." Frank irritably shook her hand off, beads of sweat forming on his brow. As a shrewd businessman, he didn't believe in ghosts. He only believed in money and power. And whoever the woman on stage was, she currently held the power of life and death over the project his company, Monroe Construction, so desperately wanted. "Shut up. What ghost? She's flesh and blood right there. We're ruined." He hissed through clenched teeth, turning to glower at his son-in-law. "Ethan, you explain this. You told me your ex-wife was some uneducated country bumpkin who died and disappeared. How is she now the vice chair of Apex? You've destroyed this entire family." Ethan sat there, his face completely drained of color. He looked at Mia, then down at his own trembling hands. The image of his pregnant wife kneeling and begging him in the storm 3 years ago overlapped with the image of the powerful woman on stage. The brutal contrast made his brain short-circuit. I don't know, Dad. I really don't know," Ethan stammered, his voice choked as if someone were strangling him. Tiffany, however, was different. Her initial fear was quickly replaced by a furious jealousy and envy. She stared at Mia's crystal-studded gown at the priceless pearl necklace. Those things should have been hers, the darling daughter of a construction magnate, not that fish-smelling girl from the past. She definitely had plastic surgery and she must be sleeping with some old fossil in New York to climb this high. Tiffany hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "What are you afraid of? What's there to fear from a woman who sells her body to get ahead? Let me go expose her." Before anyone could stop her, Mia began to move. She descended the stage steps, the rhythmic, deliberate click of her heels amplifying the pressure in the room. The crowd parted for her as if she were a queen. She didn't walk towards the dignitaries or major partners. She walked straight towards table number 1. With every step she took, Ethan's heart pounded harder. He wanted to get up and run, but his feet felt nailed to the floor. Mia stopped directly in front of Ethan. The scent of Santal 33 once again enveloped him, rich and suffocating. She said nothing, simply taking a glass of red wine from a passing waiter's tray and swirling it gently. "Long time no see." "Ex-husband," Mia began, her voice as smooth as velvet, but as sharp as a razor. "You look worse than I imagined. Life with the new wife must be hard." Ethan swallowed, forcing a smile that felt like cracking plaster. "Mia, when did you get back? Why didn't you let me know? After all, we were once husband and wife." "Husband and wife?" Mia let out a short, contemptuous laugh. "Are you even worthy of using those words? As I recall, 3 years ago, you and your mother threw me out like a bag of trash. Do you remember? It was raining so hard that night." She tilted the glass, the red liquid sloshing like blood. Her eyes darkened, boring into his soul. At this point, Sharon regained some composure. Her greedy, shameless nature took over. She thought that since Mia had once been her daughter-in-law, had served her like a queen, there must still be some lingering affection. Besides, seeing how wealthy Mia was now, if she could get back on her good side, she would surely benefit. Sharon scrambled to her feet, forcing a sycophantic smile, and reached out her gold-laden hand to grab Mia's. "Oh, my dear daughter-in-law, I knew you weren't dead. I kept telling Ethan, you had the face of fortune. You couldn't possibly die young. Oh, I've missed you so much these past 3 years. Where have you been? It's so good that you're back. Come back to me." Smack. A sharp, dry sound echoed through the suddenly silent hall. Mia had violently slapped Sharon's hand away. She hadn't struck her, but the gesture was filled with such profound disgust. It was as if she had just touched something infectious and foul. Mia pulled a silk handkerchief from her clutch, meticulously wiped the fingers that had made contact, and let the handkerchief drop to the floor. "You've mistaken me for someone else," Mia said coldly without blinking. "I don't have a mother, and I certainly don't have the kind of mother-in-law who would force her 6-month pregnant daughter-in-law out onto the street to die. Save that title for your precious new daughter-in-law beside you." Sharon froze, her face flushing crimson, then turning purple with public humiliation. Tiffany couldn't take it anymore. She slammed the table and shot up, pointing a finger at Mia. "What's with the attitude? Don't think wearing some designer clothes makes you a princess. You're still just a fishmonger at heart. How dare you be rude to your mother-in-law?" Mia turned, her sharp gaze raking over Tiffany from head to toe. She sneered. "And who are you? The waitress for this table or the mistress who's been promoted but still hasn't learned how to behave like a civilized person?" "You?" Tiffany choked, trembling with rage. "Kevin," Mia called softly. "Yes, ma'am." Kevin appeared instantly behind her. "This guest seems to have lost her composure, and it's affecting the party's atmosphere. Please review the guest list. I recall Apex only inviting distinguished partners, not people who lack basic etiquette." Kevin nodded and signaled to 2 towering security guards. Seeing the situation escalate, Frank Monroe quickly stood up to intervene. He knew if his daughter was thrown out now, Monroe Construction would lose all face and more importantly any chance of a partnership. "Miss Sterling, please calm down," Frank said with a fawning smile. "My daughter is young and foolish. She doesn't know any better. Please forgive her. I am Frank Monroe, director of Monroe Construction. We greatly admire your talent and hope to collaborate on the Serenity Grand project." Mia looked at Frank, her eyes showing a flicker of calculation. She knew this old fox well, an opportunist who would sell his soul for profit. Every project Monroe Construction handled was notorious for cutting corners and using substandard materials. It was his money that had enabled Ethan to abandon her. But if she kicked them out now, the show couldn't go on. She wanted to give them hope. Let them climb as high as possible before kicking the ladder out from under them. Mia smiled. A perfect but soulless social smile. "Ah, Mr. Monroe. I've heard Monroe Construction is quite famous in Miami." Her ambiguous tone made it impossible for him to tell if it was a compliment or a jab. "Very well. Out of respect for you, Mr. Monroe, I will overlook this childish behavior, but I hope there will be no more marketplace brawls at my party." With that, she raised her glass towards Frank in a silent warning, then turned and walked away, leaving Ethan's family standing there, some relieved, some seething with humiliation. Frank turned and slapped Tiffany hard across the face. "Shut your mouth. Do you want to get us all killed? Do you know who she is? She's the investor. If you ruin my business deal, I'll throw both you and your husband out on the street." Tiffany clutched her cheek, tears welling in her eyes, looking resentfully from her father to her husband. Ethan could only hang his head in silence. He was afraid of Mia and afraid of his father-in-law. He realized that on this chessboard, he was the most useless pawn. The gala was torture for Ethan. He watched Mia move among powerful guests, raising her glass and conversing fluently in English and Spanish. She was brilliant, exuding an intellectual and authoritative beauty he had never seen. He remembered the old days when she would be in the kitchen, the smell of fish stew clinging to her hair. He had despised her then, thinking she was unworthy of him, a construction engineer. But now the gap between them was a chasm. He was just a grain of sand beneath her feet. Yet a vile thought began to fester in his mind. After all, she had once loved him deeply, sacrificed everything for him. Could there still be a flicker of feeling left? Women, no matter how strong, always had a soft spot for their old flames. If he could just find a way to reignite old memories, perhaps he could use her to advance his career. What if he could even ditch Tiffany and become the king beside Queen Chloe Sterling? The thought made Ethan's eyes gleam with greed. He drained his glass, straightened his suit, and decided to find a chance to approach Mia when she was alone. At 10 p.m., as the party wound down, Mia stood on the second-floor balcony of the VIP villa, looking out at the dark sea. The wind blew through her hair, carrying a slight chill. Kevin approached and draped a thin shawl over her shoulders. "Everything is proceeding as you predicted, ma'am. Old man Monroe is trying everything to submit his bid tomorrow morning. He even tried to bribe our project manager for a private meeting with you." Mia pulled the shawl tighter and sipped her hot tea. "Accept his bid, but make the terms as stringent as possible. Require a 30% contract value security deposit just to participate. And tell him Apex needs a contractor with extremely strong financial backing to guarantee the timeline." "You plan to bleed him dry, ma'am?" Kevin asked, his voice full of admiration. "I'm not bleeding him. I'm teaching him a lesson about greed," Mia replied, her eyes cold. "He'll use all his capital, even take out loans from sharks to chase this project. When his pockets are empty, that's when I'll cut the rope." "And your ex-husband?" "He's lurking downstairs. Looks like he wants to see you." Mia sneered. "Let him come up. I'm curious to see what kind of act he'll put on." 5 minutes later, Ethan was escorted to the balcony. He walked timidly, nervously, fidgeting with his jacket, his face a mask of feigned remorse and longing. When he saw Mia leaning against the railing, the silvery moonlight casting a solitary yet fatally alluring halo around her, Ethan swallowed hard. "Mia," he called softly. Mia didn't turn around. Her voice was flat. "You have 3 minutes. Speak before I have security throw you into the pool." Ethan flinched and took a step closer. "Mia, I know you hate me. I deserve it. For the past 3 years, I haven't had a single peaceful night's sleep. I thought you were gone. If I had known you were alive, I would have searched everywhere for you." "Search for me? For what?" Mia turned, crossing her arms. "To ask for the funeral money back, or to make sure I was really dead." "No, don't say that." Ethan dropped to his knees, a classic move he used whenever he messed up in the past. He looked up at her, his eyes welling with tears. "I was forced. My mother, Tiffany's father. They forced me. I was weak, a coward, but what I felt for you was real. Look at me. For 3 years, I've been living like a soulless corpse next to Tiffany. I'm not happy." Mia looked down at the man kneeling at her feet. In the past, whenever he knelt to apologize for coming home drunk or for hitting her, she would always soften and forgive. She had mistaken it for sincerity. But now, through the lens of maturity and pain, she saw only a spineless, pathetic man willing to sell his dignity for personal gain. "You said you were forced," Mia repeated, her voice deceptively gentle. Thinking she was starting to relent, Ethan nodded vigorously. "Yes. Yes. They forced me. You know it. I'm just a lowly engineer. How could I fight against their power? Now that you're so successful, you can save me. I'll leave, Tiffany. I'll be your dog, your slave. Can we start over, Mia?" He spoke as he tried to reach for her bare foot, visible beneath the slit of her dress. Mia stepped back, the fainted pity in her eyes vanishing, replaced by naked disgust. "Start over." She laughed, a bitter sound that echoed in the night. "Ethan, who do you think I am? The same foolish Mia from before?" She bent down, her face close to his, and whispered. "You want a chance? Fine, I'll give you a chance." Ethan's eyes lit up. "Really, Mia? Tomorrow, have your father-in-law bring $50 million to deposit as security for the Serenity Grant project. If Monroe Construction wins the bid, I'll consider forgiving you. $50 million. Ethan gaped. That was an astronomical sum. The entirety of Monroe Construction's capital and mortgaged assets. What's wrong? Is your love only worth empty words? Mia stood up straight, dusting off her hands as if shaking off dirt. If you can't do it, then get out of my sight. And remember, don't ever let me see you lurking around here again. Otherwise, it won't just be a wine glass that breaks. It'll be the livelihood of your entire family. Ethan shakily got to his feet. He understood what Mia meant. This was a gamble. If Monroe Construction won this billion-dollar project, $50 million would be a small price, and he would have it all. Wealth, status, and perhaps even Chloe Sterling's forgiveness. But if they lost, I'll try. Wait for my news, Ethan said, then shuffled away, his mind already scheming how to convince his father-in-law to mortgage everything. He had no idea he was digging his own grave and the grave of his new family. Mia watched his retreating back, her eyes as cold as the night dew. Kevin. Yes, ma'am. Prepare the legal documents. As soon as Monroe Construction transfers the deposit, activate the contract's breach clause regarding their past performance failures. I want Monroe Construction to declare bankruptcy within a month and that $50 million will be frozen indefinitely. Understood, ma'am. A ruthless move, Kevin commented. But there was no criticism in his voice, only obedience. Ruthless. Mia looked up at the moon. Compared to killing an unborn child and leaving your wife for dead. What is this little bit of money? She placed a hand over her lower abdomen where the scar from the emergency surgery still ached whenever the weather turned. My child, she thought. Watch mommy collect this debt for you. The atmosphere at Apex Global was tense. Contractors lined up to submit their bids, but top priority was given to Monroe Construction. Following Chloe's unspoken directive, Frank Monroe and Ethan entered the VIP conference room carrying briefcases, their faces a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Mia sat at the head of the table, spinning a Mont Blanc pen. Today she wore a pristine white pantsuit, her hair pulled back in a high ponytail, looking sharp and dynamic. Good morning, Miss Sterling, esteemed executives. Frank Monroe bowed, his shirt already damp with sweat. Last night, Ethan had spun a tale of Mia's lingering feelings, claiming this was a test, that the project was a gold mine. Frank, with his bottomless greed, had decided to bet the farm. He had mortgaged his mansion, his land on Star Island, and even borrowed from loan sharks to scrape together the $50 million in cash. Please have a seat, Mia gestured to the chairs opposite her. I've reviewed your company's profile. Monroe Construction has experience, but your scale is smaller than what AGP requires. However, she paused, glancing at Ethan, who sat meekly beside his father-in-law. He looked at her with pleading eyes. I appreciate your enthusiasm, especially from Mr. Hayes here, a very dedicated employee. Frank Monroe beamed. Yes, my son-in-law is very passionate. He said, Miss Sterling is a fair person who values talent. All right, let's get straight to the point. Mia pushed a thick contract across the table. This is the preliminary agreement. Clause 8, Party B. Monroe Construction will deposit $50 million into a designated escrow account immediately upon signing to guarantee performance. If there are any delays or violations of any technical standards outlined in the appendix, this amount will be forfeited in its entirety. Frank picked up the pen, his hand shaking slightly. $50 million was a huge sum. Miss Sterling, this violation clause seems a bit strict, doesn't it? Technical standards can be so subjective. Are you scared, Mr. Monroe? Mia raised an eyebrow, her tone challenging. AGP is an international corporation. We operate on a 6-star standard. If you're not confident in your abilities, you can withdraw right now. There are dozens of contractors out there waiting to pay the deposit. Seeing his father-in-law hesitate, Ethan nudged him. Sign it, Dad. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Miss Sterling promised she'd make things easier for us. Frank looked from his son-in-law to the powerful, implicitly promising gaze of Mia. Greed won over fear. He gritted his teeth and signed his name with a flourish. Fine, I'm all in. Mia watched the signature on the paper, a faint smile playing on her